on the hierarchy of needs that man would have, depression might occur when some of those essential needs that is necessary for the mental, building of a man, when some of these needs that is necessary, so for instance now love, security and all of these things, when these needs are not met, depression might occur. So quick example, you come from a very dysfunctional family, it could cause some sort of trigger or cause some sort of build up that could lead to depression over time, and I did say that sometimes for some people that you don't necessarily need to have an activity that would have happened to you, say for instance lack of love in the family, or for instance a traumatic event. For some people, they just experience some sort of dissatisfaction in life, general dissatisfaction, whereby nothing can fill them up. They don't have a general emptiness that they feel. And for some of these people, nothing that you could have really done could have really helped them. And these people's case is not, it's now not caused by, some essential need in life. It's just something that you can't exactly pinpoint, right? And so we'll be talking about how the steps you can take if you're a depressed person, to actually find your healing. It's important to understand, what depression really is. A lot of times people use depression as a pointer to devalue themselves. So for instance now, a lot of people, feel so depressed and have a lack of self-worth or value that they now begin to tell themselves that, okay, I don't have value, or I'm not that important like that, right? And the reason why this is a problem is this. Now, imagine that sometimes when your body is giving you a signal that something is wrong. Now, keep in mind that depression can be likened to the mind. You can have certain things about your body that causes you some sort of discomfort. So for instance now, you feel hungry, right? Feeling hungry is a signal to your body that your body needs food. So your body isn't meant to be without food. Your body is meant to be with food. And so when you feel hungry, it's a signal that you're not in the original state you are supposed to be, which is now with food, right? Same thing with water, same thing with every thing that your body needs to survive and thrive. Now, with depression, the same thing can be likened to depression. When you are depressed, it isn't a sign that you are without value. Rather, it's a sign that you are experiencing some form of worthlessness. This worthlessness that you are feeling, you feel that way, and you feel discomfort about that feeling because that's not how you're supposed to feel, or that's not who you are. So the same way your body is created to function with food, your mind is created to function with value. And so when you feel depressed, it's not a saying of who you are, it's a saying of what you are experiencing that you should not be experiencing, right? So what that means is that you should be somebody that is filled with value. You're actually someone that is valuable. You're actually someone that is well worth it. And that's why when you are depressed, there is something wrong with you. Why? Because there is a deviation away from who you should be. Depression is not a signal that you have no value. It's just a signal that there is something wrong somewhere that needs to be worked on, because the way you are feeling, you're not supposed to feel that way. Over the last couple of weeks, I released a couple of episodes, and I had some people reach out to me, we got into a conversation, long hours of conversation with them. And I asked them some common questions, right? Asked them for certain prayer points. Asked them also for their perception. So for instance, of what they think about God, right? And all of them had some common answers. So for instance, what do you think about God? Everybody would say things like, I feel like God doesn't love me. I feel like, God is far away. I feel like, God is trying to punish me for certain things, right? When I asked them, okay, what do you pray for? Everyone had prayer for peace. And you'd realize that a lot of times in your step to solve depression, now if you're a religious person, in your step to solve, depression, you have a mindset about God that he doesn't reach you, right? Or God is out to get you, right? And the reason why this might not be true is because now, if your depression came as a result of some sort of trauma or some sort of abuse or some sort of, lack of the essential needs that you needed while growing up, or as a human being. So love, you need to survive, so a feeling of purpose, all of those things, right? Or say abuse, trauma. If your depression started off as a result of that, it's easy to think that, why did God bestow this unfair burden on me? Why was it me that this happened to? And things like that. It's easy to get trapped in that cycle. But if you understand anything about life, a lot of times, it's not always the activity, but the mind that's engaged in that activity. So what that means is this: if, for instance, you grew up without the love of a father, let's assume that you grew up with the love of a father, right? Something else would have happened that would have put you in that state. Maybe a sibling of yours, or maybe a child as you got older got sick and you had to cater for this child, and it caused you to be down or depressed. The point is that the way life works is that life works in phases. Now, for some people, they would have it easy at the beginning, hard at the middle, maybe easy at the end. For some people, they will have it hard at the beginning, relatively easier in the middle, relatively easier in the end. For some people, they will have it hard, right? But the point is that if you live long enough, there would be something that must certainly question the heart of God towards you. That's why it's called trials and tribulations. I made a statement one day. I said, sometimes the prayer for a long life is the prayer for a hard life. And what that means is that if you pray to live up to 80 years, one likely thing that you would experience would be the loss of a loved one, multiple loved ones. You would have to go through some sort of tough time that would either make you or that would either break you. And so when I say that, sometimes it isn't necessarily about the activity, sometimes, most times, but the heart. What that means is that even if you didn't have that issue, another issue would have come up that would have still made you question God's love or heart towards you. Same way, there are always pointers to show you that God loves you. It's just what your mind focuses on at that particular point. That is what is the activity that has now held your heart captive to focus and magnify on only that particular area. How do you judge the love of God for you, right? How do you judge the love of God for you? The love of God for you should be judged not by what you think, but by what He has done. And what I mean is that when you understand the Christian worldview, if you're a Christian, you'd realize that what makes us Christians, what makes us believers, is the fact that we understand one simple fact: God sent His Son, Jesus, to die on our behalf, right? That He will be buried. He basically died for our sins, that He will be buried, and then He will resurrect, right? And that in His resurrection, we now have life. Now, what this entails is this: that for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes shall not perish but have everlasting life. So the love of God is seen in what He was willing to give up for you, right? And the reason why this is important is because I always ask people, especially ladies, that if you had a guy that said that he loved you, he was always saying it, then let's say, for example, now, you always had pointers to always want to say that he didn't love you. So for instance, he didn't call you yesterday night, or he has not been calling you maybe for like the last couple of days, but then you would say, okay, he doesn't love me. Then imagine that one day something then happens whereby there's like a shootout, and then the guy jumps in front of a bullet for you, right? I know, fictional story, but imagine that happens, and let's say he dies in the process, or let's say he didn't die, let's say he struggles for his life. Would you ever doubt His love for you? And most times the answer is no. Why? Because we understand that in life, the most precious thing about a man's life to a man is his life. So if you ask a man, pick between $10 billion and say your life, right? I mean, I'll give you $10 billion, but I'll kill you, all right? You would most likely reject it. Why? Because what's the point of the $10 billion if I'm no longer alive? So my life is first paramount to me, because I know that when I have life, I can have every other privilege that life has to offer. So when you say things like God doesn't love you or God doesn't care about you because of your personal experiences, what you have done is that you've reduced the image and the might of God in your mind to those little experiences. And a lot of times, those experiences over the next couple of years might not even matter anymore. I mean, there are certain things that matter to you a couple of years ago that does not matter to you, a couple of years after, right? And so you reduce the image of the image and the love of God for you to those singular events that might not matter the next couple of years. That the proof that God loves you is first seen in what He gave up for you. For some people, they pray for peace, right? Or everyone I spoke to who battled depression prays for peace. Now, you'd realize that peace is a natural feeling you get when you realize that there is somebody, first of all, who is powerful, and secondly, who cares about you, right? So think about it. Somewhere in the Bible, Jesus Christ was on the boat with His disciples, and then there was a storm, and the disciples were scared, and then Jesus Christ was like, peace, to the storm, commanded, the storm to be still, right? And Jesus Christ was, he was shocked at the disciples that you've been with me this long and you are still scared because of a storm. So what Jesus Christ expected was that they were in perfect peace through the storm. Why? Because they were not alone. He was with them, right? And so peace a lot of times is the acknowledgement that God is with you, God is for you, and God will never leave you, right? Because you already understand that there is a mighty power of God that is available, and that mighty power that is available also cares about you, right? So peace a lot of times comes from the fact that you are aware that God is with you and God is for you. There are a couple of other tips that helps out with depression, and it's very important to note this because depression, first of all, happens in two stages or in two dimensions. The first is that depression can be caused by a variety of issues. So to everybody, they might have a certain trigger or a certain cause that that triggered their depression. Now, that's on one level. The fact that depression can be caused by different events, different traumatic events, different activities, and things like that. The second level is that everyone's way to heal their depression, right, or to cure their depression will be different. Everyone's journey will be different. Why? Because we are different people. We are different beings. We respond to different things. We have different needs on a more specific level. Depression can be caused by different things. Secondly, people will respond to depression differently, and hence their treatment will be different. But some general tips, however, would be that, number one, you must be patient with yourself through the journey. Now, being patient with yourself means that a lot of times, you would feel depressed so much that you are frustrated and angry with yourself for feeling this way, and yet you cannot control how you feel. So you must be patient with yourself. You must understand that a lot of people are depressed. There's something that, the devil tries to do. He tries to make us feel like our case is unique. But when you hear the statistics of people who commit suicide, who are depressed, who commit suicide, you realize that a lot of people, they are actually suffering from this thing. You would actually realize that you are actually not alone. There are lots of people who are depressed, who would understand where you're coming from a point of empathy, right? So you are not alone. You are not in isolation. You're just isolated in your mind. Be patient with yourself, because this is not just happening to you. It's happening to a whole lot of other people. Out of that patience, work out your healing. Now, secondly, don't try to do it alone. Try to speak to somebody. Now, it's very important to try to speak to somebody, because a lot of times the willpower that you're trying to use to get yourself out of your depression is the willpower that was not sufficient enough to prevent you from getting into that depression. If your willpower was not enough to prevent the depression from starting, your willpower would not be enough to kill off the depression. Not without the help of external forces, by the way. I'm not saying your willpower doesn't matter. I'm saying not without the help of external forces. It's important to talk to somebody. Talk to somebody that you feel vulnerable with, that you can trust, that is non-judgmental, that is well aware and exposed about the effects of mental health, of depression. Now, another thing that you can do that we underplay a lot is seeking the help of a licensed therapist, right? And the reason why this is important is because I think that it is very well underplayed in Nigeria, right? A therapist helps you, find clarity. They walk you through your story. They can help you pinpoint where your depression started from. Now, for some people, they might not really have, they've just always been like that, right? So for as long as they can remember. But for some people, you can actually trace to say, okay, this depression started from this angle, it was because this happened to me, it was because this person raped me, it was because this person abandoned me, it was because this happened, that happened, right? So that's what therapy helps you do. It helps you seek clarity. You have somebody that, is invested in you, that, you're accountable to, that walks you through the different steps that you can take, to overcome your depression. So you have somebody that you're accountable to, that will help you through these phases in your healing story. Another reason why a therapist is important is because while you're trying to chase your depression, sometimes you will feel overwhelmed, sometimes you will feel confused, sometimes you go and read an article online that does not whereby you're trying to try out solutions that is not for you, right? Which is why I said that everyone will respond differently to depression, and everyone's treatment or cure for depression would be different. This is what a therapist helps you do. They work step by step with you to help you find the best path towards healing and recovery. Another thing that helps is finding outlets through which you find some sort of outburst. Again, like I said, it's different for everybody. I heard of this thing, where I saw in a movie whereby, a guy who had his mind clouded and he was so confused. It's like his mind was chaotic, and then he went to break stuff, right? So there's this place you can go to whereby you can break things, you can paint, you basically do either destructive things. They have like garbages, equipment that nobody is using anymore. And so the guy, ventured into those destructive habits to let go of all the excess energy he felt, so that he could get clarity. For some people that could be that for them, surprisingly. For some other people, they just need to take a vacation, clear their mind, go to the beach, ponder about life, different things, just different ways to find the joy in life, to find the peace in life and things like that. So different people will have different expressions to, unleash or let go of that burden that they feel inside, right? So what's your own expression? This is also something that you can also discover in therapy, just in case, you're not even able to discover it, by yourself, right? So you have that. I think that there is a God-sized hole in every man, right? There's a God-sized hole in every man, and a God-sized hole means that it's a hole created to be filled by only God. And so sometimes when you feel that emptiness, you might want to tend to, different vices. You might want to tend to different things to try to fill up that void. And it might lead to a futile effort. Why? Because that emptiness that you feel is there for a reason. It's trying to point you to something. So it's like saying, for instance, you feel hungry and you're drinking water. It doesn't quench away the hunger. Why? Because there's a specific need that is meant to solve the feeling of that hunger. Okay? So the emptiness that you feel, especially if it's an emptiness that comes from the fact that nothing else can fill you, most times refers to the fact that you need a God-sized, you need God to fill that emptiness, right? And I think I had like a 31-minute conversation with this guy, and he spoke about it. He spoke about his story, and I think that you can draw insight, although I'll be giving you some summarized view, right? The name of the episode is The Christian Way to Overcome Depression, right? So please, if you can check that out, please do. But in summary, this is what you need. You need fellowship with God, right? Because when you feel that void, right? When you feel that void and you're basically trying to find ways to find, expressions, to find outlets, to basically fill that void. When you're basically trying to fill that void, the only thing that will solve the feeling of that void is the thing that the void needs itself. And in this case, it's a relationship with God, right? And the relationship with God, again, like every other thing, would mean that you would need the help of somebody to walk through it with you, right? And so if you're that person that you've tried everything, you've tried this, you've tried that, and nothing seems to be filling you up, then that's just most likely what you need, right? You need fellowship with God. You need to understand the love of God for you better. You need to grow in God and, things like that, right? And so if that's you, of course, you can reach out to me. I understand the fact that that therapy might, well, to be fair, I think it's expensive for an average Nigerian, right? And there's that struggle, there's that fact, right? Which is why I plan in the next, couple of months to have some sort of therapy, some sort of mental health therapist that is actually satisfied, where I have like an hour plus long with this person, and we're asking the person questions about mental health, about depression, the best approach. I would try to get a couple of questions that is, tailor specific to you, and basically ask the person these questions, so that you can get your tailor-made answers and things like that, right? And I'll try to do that, just to help people who might not even have the liberty or the leverage, or who are even confused about what depression is, how to go about it, and things like that, right? So please expect that from me. But please reach out. Let's take, like I said, everybody's case would be unique in terms of the approach to solving it. There are generic use cases, there are generic steps, but in those general use cases, you might see how specific approach is, right? So if that's you, please reach out to me, okay? And I would love to help you through it. Thank you so much. I hope this was as exhaustive as I could get. Like I said, depression is unique to everybody, and there is no one size rule. So always do well to reach out if you want to, and we'll talk through it. Thank you so much for your time. See you next week. Bye.